Like every victim of a violent crime, together we will never stop pursuing justice for that victim. Today is no different, as we never stop pursuing justice for this victim. This victim of this heinous violent crime just happened to be a deputy sheriff. I stand here filled with mixed emotions. Like all of you, I'm incensed. I'm incensed that any human being would inflict this type of violence against another human being in our wonderful, special Tampa Bay community. I'm absolutely incensed that this bad guy had zero regard for human life. At the same token, I'm overwhelmed with gratitude. I'm grateful that Deputy Hall will make a full recovery. I'm grateful that our state attorney is so diligent, assigning her team during the holiday, bringing everyone in, getting us what we needed, subpoenas, search warrants, everything we needed working around the clock. Our detectives, our investigators, since this incident happened, hasn't had a wink of sleep to make sure that the individual accountable for this crime is responsible. At the same time, I stand here as a grateful sheriff, grateful that this community has zero tolerance for anyone that would ever harm one of our law enforcement officers. I figured at this point, since the last time we were in front of the media and details were extremely preliminary the night of July 4th into July 5th, that hopefully I can fill in now some of these gaps of not what we believe, but what we now know. On the work shift of July 4th, which actually, as we all know, at midnight goes into July 5th, Deputy Kalen Hall is one of our K-9 deputies. He was working overtime. We asked for volunteers to work overtime to participate in our impaired driver operation. This deputy was out working overtime to ensure that the roadways were free and safe from impaired drivers, so while all of us were out celebrating the holiday, that us and our loved ones would make it home safely. Around midnight, right after midnight, he sees a car a black BMW, and it's having a difficult time failing to maintain within a single lane of traffic, a true indicator of an impaired driver. So he conducts a traffic stop on that individual. He exits his car. They're on Nebraska and Barris, a very busy road, goes behind his car to smartly, wisely, to use the car as a buffer, and walks up to the side of to approach the BMW. And at that point, as he's getting closer, as you can see by the body cam footage, the driver says, "I'm fleeing, I'm out of here, and I'm taking off and trying to elude arrest at that point." Deputy Hall wisely made the decision to not pursue. At this time, there's a lot of people coming back from parties and functions, and I shouldn't pursue. I don't believe the charge is warranted at this time to pursue and put this community at risk. So he turns off his emergency equipment. But being a K-9 deputy, he specializes in tracking individuals who have the habit of trying to elude arrest. So he didn't give up. It's not surprising that it took him less than 25 minutes as he's circulating the different neighborhoods to locate this black BMW, backed into a parking space. So as he pulls in and gets out of his car. When the driver sees our deputy sheriff, recognizes him as a deputy sheriff, he puts the car in gear, hits the gas, and intentionally strikes and runs over our deputy, knowing that you can't ram the car. The only pathway to his escape is through the deputy sheriff. Showing zero regard for human life, making the determination that him eluding arrest was more important than this deputy's life, he intentionally puts the car in gear, hits the gas, and runs the deputy over, leaving him laying on the side of the road like an injured dog, not knowing how injured he is, how severe the injuries. Did he kill this deputy sheriff? He didn't care. He never came back to render aid. He never came back to check on him. Zero regard for human life. All he cared about for the second time within a short half hour was eluding arrest, making sure that he wasn't captured. I can't imagine what was running through his mind. Was it because he was an impaired driver? Was it because he had a felony amount of marijuana in the car? Was it because he already has some pending charges? What would go through an individual's mind to say, I'm going to run through that deputy sheriff, my only pathway to escape, to make sure that I don't get arrested this night? As he's leaving, he gets on the phone with his girlfriend, tells his girlfriend what he's done, pleading for help, that he's done something serious. He drives about a mile away, realizing in his criminal mind that the only nexus to him and the crime that he's just committed is his car. He needs to get rid of this car and get as far away from this car as possible. So about a mile away, he goes into a neighborhood, he leaves the car and walks away from the car. His girlfriend, aiding him that night, calls his mom and tells his mom, listen, our bad guy, your son has done this. He needs you to go pick him up. She gets in her car. She goes to where he's at. She picks him up and brings him home. It's not too much longer, a few hours, where we get a search warrant for the house. We know where he's at. We show up at the house. We start asking questions. He immediately never shows, throughout the entire conversation, as short as it may have been, any remorse. He showed zero remorse, only denial. I don't know where my car keys are. I don't know where my phone's at. We located him with the search warrant on the nightstand right next to his bed. Never, ever admitted to anything. And immediately, once he knew we discovered those items, I need an attorney, this conversation's over. Never shown any type of remorse. Over the next couple of days, our investigators do a phenomenal job of trying to piece everything together, using every investigative latent technique that there is to make sure that not just we believe he's the driver, but what we can do and prove. And during that time, last evening, we get to a point where we have enough, and the state attorney's office once again is working after hours, assisting us, and they help us with an arrest warrant. And I'll go into the charges here momentarily. While their surveillance team, knowing that we are going to place him under arrest, several hours earlier have been following this individual. His friend picks him up. They go to get a rental car. They go back to a house, and he packs his bags, and he's loading the car up. Our surveillance team contacts us and says, hey, I think he's headed into the abyss. I think he's taken off. So as he's headed into Pasco County, he's the passenger in this rental car. He has another individual I'll speak about, another bad guy. They are driving and they go into Pasco County. We don't want to activate our emergency equipment because we don't want to put the public at risk. And number three, he's already eluded arrest twice. We don't want to see it a third time. So they do a great job, our surveillance team, along with the assistance of the Pasco County Sheriff's Office. They wait for them to pull into a shopping center. Don't know exactly why they were there, but they pull into a shopping center. They converge and do what we call a takedown. They converge on them, block them in. There's nowhere for them to go. They place him under arrest. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the professionalism of our investigators. I already talked about how diligent and dedicated they are. Thank you to each and every one of them for working as hard as they are, especially through the holiday when we're all enjoying it with our families. But if you watch the video, you see how professional they are. What I mean by professional is the great restraint that they used with placing this individual under arrest. This individual ran over one of their fellow deputies, one of their brothers. You can understand the anger that all of us are harboring. They didn't let their emotions get the best of them, and you see with this video, which we will release to all of you, just how professional they were when they effected that arrest. I made comment and alluded to the fact we thought that they were headed into the abyss, that they were taken off. He knew that the time was up, the gig was up, and he had His only option, once again, was to flee, and he was going to try to get away. When we arrested him, the only comment that he made was that his mom had given him money and it was in the backseat of the car. So he's in a rental car. He packed his bags. His mom gave him some money. I'll let the rest of you determine what do you think he was doing. Wasn't going to church to donate the money. The driver that he's with is also a bad guy. He's out on bond right now, and his charge from the Tampa Police Department was great bodily harm, inflicting great bodily harm on another human being. It has just been upgraded to attempted murder here within the past week or several days. So he's another bad person that we have in our community. So there's no doubt in my mind that the two of them, facing consequences for their actions, didn't want to do so. So we rented a car, packed their bags, got some money, and we're headed out of town to where they could elude arrest. Let me talk about the individuals that we've arrested to this date. I talked about our bad guy, William Todd Lewis, Jr., 24 years of age. Aggravated battery on a law enforcement officer. Possession of cannabis more than 20 grams. Leaving the scene of a crash with serious bodily injury. Reckless driving with serious bodily injury. Aggravated fleeing to elude serious bodily injury or death. Fleeing attempting to elude a police officer. He is also out on bond and facing charges that are pending with the state attorney's office for possession of cannabis over 20 grams, possession of a controlled substance, and open carry of a firearm. Last night, we also arrested the driver of that car. His name is Zachary Carnegie. He's also 24 years of age. Last night, when he was placed on arrest because he was found to be in possession of a baggie of Xanax pills that didn't belong to him. He's out on bond and was arrested in 2022 by the Tampa Police Department for aggravated battery with a deadly weapon. And again, that charge was just upgraded to attempted murder. Last night, we also arrested our bad guy's girlfriend for attempting and aiding in his avoidance of law enforcement. Not only did we charge her with accessory after the fact for aiding him, during the investigation, she knew that we were on to her as well, so she deleted all her text messages. So she is charged with tampering with physical evidence. Deputy Hall, as you're sitting at home, working through your agony, trying to find the comfort to get some rest, to get some sleep, as you start this long road to recovery from your leg being broken in 2 places, your ankle being broken, a stress fracture in the other leg, as you and your families are trying to process this drama. That night out on the road, as you laid there not knowing if you were going to survive, and you asked the deputies who arrived shortly after that started to render aid to you to please take the body cam off, and he made sure the deputies told his family to express how apologetic he was to his parents for putting them through this. Not only the fact that they were 4 hours away on vacation and would have to turn around and come back home, but there was a point in time there where he didn't know how seriously injured he was. He didn't know if he was going to make it. And his last words to our deputies were, please make sure my parents know that I'm sorry for putting them through this type of trauma. As you're home, as your family's home, as the law enforcement community is at work and home, and this community has understood the importance of safeguarding the very individuals sworn to protect you and your loved ones, I hope that these arrests will bring you some type of solace and comfort. I also will be bold enough to make a statement that as our investigators continue to work through this latent investigation, this isn't the final arrest in this case. It won't be long that our public affairs office will be sending out an update for the rest of the individual or individuals that also helped and aided this individual in evading capture and eluding arrest. What questions can I attempt to answer at this point? Not sure yet. Again, let me be clear. With the help of our state attorney, who believes wholeheartedly in holding individuals accountable and responsible for their actions when it comes to criminal activity, anyone out there who helped this individual that evening and over the next few days to avoid and elude arrest, you are a potential suspect. We are looking at you. We are coming for you.
Sure. Can I just ask you a couple here? Is this young man the registered owner of that BMW? Secondly, you know, did Deputy Wells see him, make eye contact? Was he able to identify this individual? And thirdly, do you have cell phone records that kind of ping him in that location at that time?
Yeah, all great questions. He is a registered owner of the BMW. He couldn't see the driver because it was just too dark. Too dark and couldn't see him, and it happened way too fast. And when we talk about latent investigative techniques, yes, when you have your cell phone, you leave a digital imprint, and that digital imprint was certainly an extremely integral part of holding this individual accountable for running over our deputy that evening.
So then presumably anybody that he called, texted, might have aided and abetted his escape.
100%. Anyone who he contacted who helped him that evening and over the next few days avoid capture, help cover up the crime, whatever the case may be, is 100% a suspect. And we wanted to make sure these bad guys were placed under arrest so they will never be able to harm another human being. That was our main focus and priority. I am hopeful as our investigators continue to comb through evidence that they will get to the point where they can charge this individual with his real crime, and that's attempted homicide of a law enforcement officer. But again, it was more important with the crimes that we can prove. And the ones we can prove right now that I believe will be enhanced later on is what we've charged this individual with, this bad guy, to get him off the streets before he's able to harm anyone else.
Sure. One more for you and then one for Attorney Lopez
Yes.
as well. When was the last time you spoke to Deputy Hall? What was that conversation like? How's he doing now?
He's doing well. I spoke to him last on Saturday night. I called him. We were getting close to making an arrest there. And I told him that I wanted him to be patient. Obviously, he, being such a great investigator and a hard charger as he is, he wanted the individual placed under arrest. After making sure that he was okay and he was comfortable, he had just gotten home from the hospital a few hours later. When I talked to him Saturday night, he was just getting to a point. Some visitors left, and he was going to try to get comfortable and try to get some rest. We all know when you're in the hospital, it's hard to get some sleep. And he was trying to find some comfort there. Also expressed to him as we were back and forth with the chief deputies and the colonels and everyone that was been involved with this since the moment that it happened, talking with them and working through to make sure that there were some crimes. Also, ones that we could prove. I wanted him to be patient. If I had to sum it up, I wanted him to be patient. We wanted to, why charge him with one thing when we could charge him with everything that we could prove? At the same time, having phone calls and telephone conversations with our state attorney and her team. It's a holiday weekend. There's on-call attorneys. Being back and forth with them on what we needed to be able to prove what we thought and suspected. Again, I can't thank State Attorney Lopez and her team enough for helping us each and every step along the way here to get to this point. I don't want to sound arrogant. I don't want to sound cocky. There's no doubt between the state attorney's office and our team of skillful investigators, we will get to the point of being able to prove the fact that he had all intentions of running over this law enforcement officer, zero regard for his life, not caring if he killed him or not, because that was his pathway to elude arrest.
That leads perfectly to my next question for State Attorney Lopez. How challenging is it to be able to prove intent or even to make an arrest like this when you might not know exactly was behind that wheel that night? What's the process?
The excellent investigation that's been done by the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office. Like Sheriff Conisterstad, his team and my team have been working hand in hand since the early morning hours right after this event occurred. There have been subpoenas, there have been search warrants, and the investigation is, of course, ongoing. But as the sheriff said, we wanted to get this dangerous criminal off the street so he couldn't do this to someone else, so he couldn't elude law enforcement. We're working hard, we're working hand in hand, and we will continue to do so as we investigate this terrible crime. The sheriff said that the deputies said that their brother was injured. Well, he's our brother too. And so we feel very strongly, and we know that we will bring justice for Deputy Hall and his family and his brothers in uniform.
State Attorney, forgive me, but I noticed that you were getting choked up during this. Sorry, but any particular reason this hits you in a certain way?
I'm going to be honest with you. I had not heard that that was the final conversation that he had with his brothers in uniform. I've spoken with Deputy Hall via text message several times on Friday afternoon. I knew him before this event. He's an excellent law enforcement officer. He is a great deputy. He's a great person. And so to know that he went through that, this is completely avoidable. This was absolutely inexcusable what this person did to try and evade law enforcement arrest. Like the sheriff said, this man had charges that were pending, and he just didn't want to get caught again. Well, we've got him. And working hand in hand with our sheriff, we're going to get justice for Deputy Hall and for all of his brothers at the sheriff's office.
Sheriff, I have two for you, Sheriff. One, just quick. One is, would you have any evidence to suggest as to where this person was headed?
We do not. Immediately going back to that conversation, he said that his mom had given him, he was worried about the money. He said, my mom gave me money, it's in the back seat. I want my attorney.
And then the second question, forgive me, I'm not 100% sure. Have you released a photo of the BMW yet?
We certainly can. There's no reason that we can't. We can release a copy of the photo. Again, all the body cam footage, everything we have to this date, booking photos, we'll put all that out. Since we were in Pasco County, the driver was arrested in Pasco County, so he'll be charged there. Again, talking to State Attorney Lopez with the upgraded charges, I'm sure that his bond will be revoked at some point to make sure we're safeguarding our Tampa Bay community.
Sir,
Yes, sir.
this has not been like the first case that you've been through with officers that have been struck by people that are not behaving the way they have to. So how come that this, like, I think it's the third, fourth time that this happened for you? What are you guys doing to make it safer for them, and how do you feel about this going on again?
Yeah, we put that out in one of our press releases. This is the third incident within a few short months of people causing great bodily harm to our deputies. Again, it's heart-wrenching to know they're out there. What we can do for them is give them the best practices, the best training we can to avoid these types of circumstances, the best tools that they have to be able to deploy to protect themselves and protect this community, and we'll continue to do that. Thank God we have individuals, our academies are full, they want to come work here. The reason for that is because of this community. Because this community loves their law enforcement, supports their law enforcement. And from what everyone tells me, the comments coming online, watching social media, how incensed they are. Having a state attorney, if something happens to any individual in this community that's a victim of violent crime, nonetheless, law enforcement, we have a state attorney that's in office. We're fortunate. Are we safer with Susie Lopez? You're 100% correct, we are. And she's proven it time after time after time by helping us hold these individuals accountable so they're not only able to not injure or harm law enforcement, but anyone else in this community.
Last question?
Sheriff, I know from the interview with Deputy Hall in the hospital, which was great, that he had called for backup. There were other resources that were coming into the area, air assets or anything like that.
Correct.
Had the helicopter arrived over the area? Was there anybody else in the immediate vicinity as this was going down?
No, it took a few moments for them to get there. And within those few moments, we all know how quickly you can get within a mile away and walk away from your car. So no assistance there. Yes, the cavalry did come. Everyone came. You dropped what you were doing. If you didn't have someone on the way to jail, you dropped what you were doing and you would come back and finish the conversation later. Everyone responded. But at that point, again, he had ditched the car in his continued attempt to evade capture and walked away from it. And again, then used certain individuals, his girlfriend, his mother, whatever resources he could to, again, escape and elude arrest that evening. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe.